A new global mobility report looking at the world's most useful passports has been released. It shows that people from countries like France, Germany, Singapore, Italy, Japan and Spain are allowed to enter 194 countries without needing a visa first. People from Afghanistan can go to only 28 countries without a visa. So, how do we do? Amanda Smit is the managing partner at Henley and Partners South Africa. They've been looking at the data. Amanda, good afternoon to you. So we know there's some countries that we as South Africans don't need visas for, and some we do. How does our passport fare compared to other passports?
Good afternoon. So in terms of the Henley Passport Index, South Africa currently ranks on the 53rd spot, with South African citizens being able to travel without a prior visa to 108 destinations worldwide. That obviously is very much in the middle in comparison to those in number one with 194 destinations, and of course the bottom with only 28.
Have there been big changes? Have you seen our passport becoming weaker and stronger, to use that terminology? Have you seen big changes over the last few years?
So South Africa actually increased its rank on the Henley Index by 1 point, from having 54th spot to 53rd this year, with a net increase of 2 countries added between January 2023 and January this year. And if we look at the countries that we've gained, it's Saudi Arabia. We've also gained access to Kiribati and this is a very difficult word, Djibouti, and we've lost access to Uganda, sadly.
Are you able to see big changes in other countries? I mean, are some countries managing to make their passports stronger? Are you seeing some countries whose passports have become weaker?
Absolutely. So if we look at the history of this 19-year-old ranking, there's been this incredible global mobility gap between those countries at the top and at the bottom of the index over this 19 years, and that gap is just getting wider than ever before. So if we look at the average number of destinations that travelers are able to access without a visa, it has nearly doubled from 58 in 2006 to 111 in 2024. But obviously, as we enter this new year and, the top ranked countries are now able to have a staggering number of destinations of 166 more than the one at the bottom. So absolutely, we've seen very much a shift in countries moving up in the ranking as they increase their visa-free treaties. And of course, the ones at the bottom will then drop down even further.
I presume there's a link between those countries that have powerful passports and those countries that have powerful economies. Is it, the richer a country, the more likely you have a stronger passport?
Absolutely. So we've also conducted a very exclusive new research into the relationship between visa-free access and economic progress by comparing certain key metrics across various regional and economic groups worldwide. And so the indicators include each grouping's percentage share of the global GDP and the world's population, along with their average percentage scores on the Henley Passport Index. So absolutely, we can see that there's a direct correlation between global mobility and economic performance of countries.
And also imagine the more powerful your passport, the easier it is to make money. Mobility makes it easier to be rich.
Yes, so the overarching narrative that links greater economic performance with visa-free access and openness is, of course, international trade, being able to have open markets where there's freedom of movement of goods and people, investment, and then, of course, also the exchange of skills between countries.
We see at the moment several conflicts around the world. So, for example, Sudan, obviously, the Middle East, Ukraine. Does that have an impact on whether countries impose visa requirements? I mean, there's some countries beginning to ask for visas when they didn't before.
That definitely will have an impact. So it's all about, visa policy, visa waivers between countries, about proactive foreign relations between governments, and of course having reciprocal agreements. What we've seen, of course, during the pandemic is that some of the world's most powerful passports lost so many access to other countries, which made them drop so many ranks down the ranking of the index. And of course, if there's unrest, then of course it will have a detrimental impact on the global mobility of the holder of such passport.
The other issue is the security of your passport, and I remember the fuss when Britain imposed visa restrictions on our passports, and there was a huge outcry, but it was because Britain believed it was easy, the UK believed it was easy to fake our passports. So passport security is a big issue here.
It absolutely is, and a lot of the global countries, and according to the International Air Transport Association, are working very much together in terms of having your biodata passports to increase the security. And they've actually conducted a research by which many travelers indicated that they would have no problem in indicating their travel plans and applying for, one can almost say like an electronic entry transfer visa before they enter into the new country to increase security measures.
And I suppose trying to make predictions, I mean, some countries can make massive changes over a while. What you're seeing, that to try and predict what countries and governments are going to do at the moment is quite difficult. Very difficult to know where our passport will be next year. And I mean, for example, we belong to BRICS. You would like to think there'll be sort of visa-free travel within BRICS nations, but it doesn't always work like that.
That's very true. And what one can actually look at, if we look at African mobility, it's definitely heading for a crossroads in 2024 if, following Kenya's very bold announcement that visitors no longer require a visa, which actually came into effect this month. So Kenya and Rwanda are the first major political and economic powers to offer complete visa-free access to international and continental visitors. And of course, they know visa policy breathed new life into the AU's attempt to bring about freedom of movement of goods and services into the capital. So most definitely, if we follow a trend of other African countries, then certainly we could see an increase in our global mobility.
Amanda Smit, thank you, Managing Partner at Henley and Partners in South Africa.